Good morning, everybody, or I should say good afternoon. I hope you're having lunch with us and enjoying your lunch while getting some good education. Welcome to the 2022 Business Resiliency Academy series presented by the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce and the City of Coral Springs Economic Development Office. I'm Cindy Brief. I'm the President CEO of the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Chamber. And the Resilience Academy, the real reason we're doing this is to provide you with opportunities to advance your expertise and knowledge in various subjects. The 2022 session was specifically focused on current challenges that businesses are currently facing, as well as taking a look at lessons learned over the previous 2 years. So I think you're going to enjoy this presentation today. And I was told by the two speakers that if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt. They like interruption. So you could type your questions in the chat box and Sean can bring them, read them out. So I'd like to introduce from the City of Coral Springs, Christy Bartlett, the Director of Economic Development for Coral Springs.
Thank you, Cindy. Good afternoon, everyone. This is, I think, our 6th year of partnering with the Chamber on some type of educational experience for local businesses, something we really appreciate doing. I am the Director of Economic Development for the City of Coral Springs. If anyone is interested in participating in our Buy Local effort, we have our Saver Shop bee bag that we are giving out to local businesses. They include a poster, some stickers you can give out to your patrons, a sticker for your window, and it's just a way to, save your shop, be Coral Springs, and buy local. So if you're interested in getting one of our kits, we'd love to bring you one. You can email me at katebartlett@coralsprings.gov, and I'm happy to come by and drop it off. So I'm really looking forward to a great program today. So thank you, Andrea and David, for participating.
Thank you, Christy. So let me just start by introducing these two amazing speakers. And I have to say, I know them both personally and for a very long time, and they're both awesome. And I think I found out they ran around in a lot of the same circles in Coral Springs. So, and I believe both went to high school in Coral Springs as well. So they've been longtime residents. So let's start out with Andrea. Andrea is the managing partner of Brodsky Jacobs located in Coral Springs. Andrea's practice focuses solely on immigration law. However, her firm practices family law and bankruptcy as well. Andrea is an undergraduate of UM and became a Gator when she went to law school. Currently, Andrea serves as past chair of the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce and has served in many leadership positions within the chamber, such as trustee chair and Professional Women's Alliance chair. So great to have you here, Andrea, and I think you can teach our businesses a lot.
Thank you.
David earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Miami and worked as a NASDAQ market maker on Wall Street, which I just learned that when I read your bio. I didn't remember that, David.
Another lifestyle.
David had a knack for technology and has spent over 20 years devoting his time to enabling businesses of all sizes to manage their IT. Most recently, David has changed his role and has become a technology ambassador. You can ask him what that means for Cloud Compliance Solution, a business that is not only a chamber member, but a chamber vendor and a prominent cloud technology provider. So please welcome Andrea Jacobs and David Levy.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm going to share my screen now so that you can all, I prepared a few slides. Stay with me one second here.
Also, I just got a text that the chat is disabled, so I don't know if everybody could put their questions in the Q&A maybe, Shar?
Yeah, the Q&A is enabled for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're first, guys.
So can everybody see my screen? You should see a splash page of the advertisement that seminar. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Cindy, for having us. The Business Resiliency Academy is the second time that I've done a business thing with the economic development organization, and we're looking forward to it. So one of the things that Cindy asked me to do was and you might recognize this slide from the last time we did a presentation. Sorry, Andrea, I slipped it in here at the last second. It was our businesses in Coral Springs, and not just in Coral Springs, but in Broward County and around the country, are recovering from pandemic and recovering from, shutdowns and things that had, never happened before. So they were disruptive to everybody, but, in pandemic and in this, during the hard times, we can find a silver lining. The silver lining, obviously, the value of our relationships, but we also had to adapt and find new ways to work, right? We had to find new ways of keeping our businesses alive. We had to use technologies that maybe we had used before to do something fun. Now we had to do something that we needed to do to keep our businesses alive. So, the cloud, and I know it seems to be, sorry for the pun, a very nebulous concept for a lot of people, but the cloud has really enabled us through using technology to develop what the theme of this discussion is, which is a hybrid or work from remote work business. So when Andrea and I decided to engage on this, Brodsky Jacobs this is a true story, a case study. She was Andrea came to us looking for some solutions, and she was looking to go from her standard office to remote work. So I'm going to let Andrea describe a little bit about her business and what her needs were, and go from there.
Okay, so most of you know me, and I am a small law firm business owner, managing partner of Brodsky Jacobs, but for the past 30 years, I have owned a small law firm in Coral Springs, first as a solo practitioner, and then partnering with Nancy Brodsky 10 years ago to form Brodsky Jacobs. So we've had an interesting history, and about 5 years, maybe shorter into our practice, we decided that electronic was the way to go, and we had a cloud from the time we became partners, and we didn't have on-site servers at that point. We were already in the cloud, but we decided that paper files might become obsolete. So we hired a high school intern, and he scanned all of our paper files. And while in some of our cases we maintained paper files, especially litigation files, on our family law division, we saw that this was going to be somehow the wave of the future. So we began scanning everything, and we already had a significant electronic database when the pandemic hit. Things that in our history, we started in a small office which was about 2,000 square feet. And 5 years ago, we moved into the Morgan Stanley building on University. We have 4,200 square feet of office space. And some of our associate attorneys would come to us and ask us, well, if I take my laptop home, I would be so much more efficient, and you should let me work Fridays from home. And I'm very old school. I've been a lawyer for 32 years now, and I wanted to see my staff in my 4,200 square feet. And the younger attorneys kept telling me, no, this is the wave of the future. And I'm like, okay, humor me. Occasionally, if you have an issue, if you're sick or whatever, I don't have a problem with it. But most of the time, I want to see you in the office. March of 2020 hit, and all I can tell you was maybe 3 weeks into the pandemic, I saw that they were totally on point. We were successful because we had the cloud in place in moving everything over to everybody's individual laptops and working from home. But we'll describe much more about that in the coming rest of the presentation. But I wanted to give you a background of where we started when
Right.
we went into this?
So the idea was to transition Brodsky Jacobs 8 users to from their 4,200 square feet to a work from home, and you'll see these acronyms WFH, or remote work environment, right? And why? Why remote work? This is a question that can be answered in a lot of ways. But as it relates to the last Business Resiliency Academy, which was heavily dedicated to retaining staff in a tight hiring environment, one of the major advantages to remote work is it can be seen as an employee benefit, right? Employees can now have the flexibility of working from anywhere, not just any time. Obviously, the bulk of work for most people happens between 9 and 5, but sometimes people are more productive in the evening hours. Sometimes people are more productive because they have family commitments or doctor's appointments or late lunches or whatever it might be. But in this tight hiring environment, you can use something like work from home to retain your existing talent, right? Because we were looking for ways to retain existing talent without having to necessarily increase their pay. Obviously, it's a competitive environment, but you can modernize your company culture and you save on staff turnover. So not only can you have people working from home, but this is great because you can also have, let's say you have an employee or a staff member or an expert in your practice, or even a partner in your practice who wants to take themselves out west, or their significant other got a job opportunity that forces them to move. Well, why do I necessarily have to start training someone else? Why do I have to start the search for someone to replace this invaluable employee? Maybe the remote work environment is something that will work to help us retain that person. And then now that person doesn't have to go out looking for a new job.
Exactly.
Also, natural disasters, sick dependence, states of emergencies, hurricanes, all of these things, and backup and disaster we'll talk about a little bit later, but a business continuity plan has become a top priority. When I talk about business continuity, March of 2020, we were all told to stay home, right? We were all just told to stay home. If you owned a business we didn't know what PPP was, but how were we going to continue our business? If you had a retail business, we were SOL. But if you had a business that was a professional business that was either doing taxes or attorney or any of those businesses, you needed to have a business continuity plan. I remember one of our clients was a steel mill that has over 500 employees. When they were told to stay home on lockdown, while everybody was scrambling for how are we going to get our employees to work, the people that were administrators, obviously they couldn't make steel, but the people that were administrators were able to work seamlessly the next day from their home environment. Now, some of them didn't have great internet connections but the majority of people were able to immediately start working from a remote environment. So they were able to save on resources that they were able to save on valuable time. And a business continuity plan was what came out of all of this. And it's imperative for every business. I think that's one of the lessons learned, is that I have to know what I'm going to do if our business has to radically change the next day. Another great reason, and Andrea can testify to this, is there's economic resources involved in rent and utilities, and I'm not trying to put the commercial real estate market in Coral Springs out of business. I don't think that's possible, but there is definitely a shift happening with the purpose and use of office space and the types of businesses that need it. So those are some of the reasons why you might want to consider remote work. But stay with me one second here. Go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going back to the whole remote work thing and how I was so opposed to it prior to the pandemic. I kind of question everything now that I've had 2 years to look back on it. Like David and I had lunch a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about all of this. And I told him when I was in law school, my first semester of law school, I sat with my study partner in the library one rainy Saturday in Gainesville, and we typed our entire torts outline into the computer in the law library. Because remember, it was 1987 and we didn't have home computers yet. And lo and behold, we're almost done. We're like 7-8 hours in, and there's a thunderstorm and the power goes out in the library. And we lose the entire tort outline that we spent the whole day doing because, you know, look, we didn't even, I think I took one computer class at UM. Because and I think it was basic and cobalt, if I remember correctly, David.
Hey, now you're treading on my territory. Come on.
Okay, but it was frightening to me. Okay, and
Yeah, I should.
From that point on, we had spiral notebooks with our outlines.
Well, I relate a similar story. I was a senior at Taravella, and or maybe a sophomore, I can't remember what it was, but I stayed up all night on my Apple IIe. And yes, in '87, we did have home computers. I bought my first computer, my Apple IIe, in 1983. Thank you very much. But I stayed up all night. I stayed up all night doing it. And this happens to everybody. And the reason I'm telling this story is because I'm sure you can all relate to this. I was up all night typing a paper and did not hit whatever WordPerfect or whatever the word processor we were using at the time forced you to hit F7 or F10 or whatever it was. And all I did was kick the power strip underneath the table, right? I just kicked my trash can underneath my desk. But in doing that, all gone, all night worth of work, entire term paper gone instantly, not saved, maybe saved like 4 hours ago. I had to start plagiarizing all over again. So
So the moral of the story is, you know, we were at the beginning, we were all really fearful of the technology, and now we're all embracing the technology. And I'll even go one better. When I first started my law firm 30 plus years ago, we had real banker's box file storage for our closed files, and we're required to keep our files for 7 years. So where did I keep these files? We didn't have enough room in the office space. So we rented a storage unit in Margate, one of those, you know, storage unit places. And my husband was the storage boy. And he would, you know, anytime we kept a list, and anytime we needed a closed file, we would tell him to go into the storage unit and go get it for us. And Hurricane Wilma hit. And I never thought about the storage unit throughout everything. And maybe 3-4 months later, we needed a file. And Matt went to the storage unit, and there was obviously a flood in the storage unit that you could see the water line on the boxes of files. But of course, they never told us. So a lot of our closed files were destroyed through Hurricane Wilma. So with the cloud storage, we could, right now, I think we have 10 years of Brodsky Jacobs closed files archived on our current server with CCSI.
yeah, we're going to talk about what happened if you were to lose the 10 years of data. We're going to talk about that and see what your reaction would be if you lost all 10 years of data in the flash of an eye.
Right.
When Andrea was referred to me by Cindy, thank you very much, Cindy. We brought in, we were engaged to transform her from her current office situation that you heard of to a cloud environment. People in their disparate locations, home, coffee shop, hotel room, wherever it might be, they wanted them to be able to work. They wanted to be able to work as if they were sitting in the cubicles next to each other, as if they were sitting in their office. And, you know, before we go any further, I think it's important to realize that with these solutions, nothing is perfect, right? We have, Andrea was having some technical difficulties yesterday, not related to her capability, but just because it's the internet and it's technology, and we're always wanting more than we can have and wanting the next level of cell phone before our current cell phone work. But we're constantly moving the ball forward. And so CCSI came in, and we do this for a lot of different businesses. Doesn't matter if it's legal or medical or financial. We came in to provide our solution. And that was what.
Well, we were having issues because everybody had their own laptop. Like I told you, Brodsky Jacobs bought everybody's laptop from them because everybody had their own laptop at home. And basically what we found was that we did some kind of a test, and there were employees that were saving sensitive information on their desktops. And because we weren't working in a true cloud environment, that left us open to all kinds of stuff David will talk about now. But it was really scary. And, we had to really buy into that we could be breached because we didn't know any better.
Right. And the cloud, but here's the thing, and I run into this a lot because you get a lot of glazed eyes when you start talking about cloud, but it's really just the internet thingy, right? That same thingy that in the 1990s we thought would be no killer app better than porn, was all you could do with it. Now or maybe you were thought, oh, are you kidding me? I should be able to buy books online. No one imagined that we would be buying everything for our homes online, that we would be transacting banking online, that we'd be doing business online, fixing travel online. The internet thingy, who knew, right? But with the internet thingy, and when we came for our interview, we discussed Andrea's primary concerns, right? What are the things that are either in your way now or that you'd like to improve? And as an IT person, these things for me always come down to three major components: security, productivity, and accessibility. What are the three main components of what we need our technology or our cloud technology to accomplish? Andrea, if you want to talk about some of the security examples that plagued you, or some of the things like you had just said, there is a when people use their computers at home, they get into a habit of saving things to their desktop, or saving things to a temp folder, or saving things to a C drive, and they're not quite sure where they are. But that habit can be can open huge holes in your security environment if it's on these laptops. If people even just save their desktops and they click on the wrong link and their particular PC is compromised, who knows the volume of data that you might be releasing to the public. So I know security is an issue, and go ahead and talk about some of your security concerns, Andrea.
Yeah, well, right before we started looking and I met with David, we had one of our employees' emails was hacked, and she didn't know it. And the next thing you know, we're getting phone calls and emails about a virtual receptionist position on Indeed. So someone had taken her information, made a bogus Brodsky Jacobs Indeed account, and was advertising for a virtual receptionist in order to have people fill out employment applications, which ask for sensitive information like social security numbers, driver's license numbers. And the smarter people that were filling out the application called and said, is this really a real job? And my receptionist called me and said, are you looking to replace me? And I'm like, no. And lo and behold, this is what happened. So my primary concerns were, number one, that what if these laptops were out somewhere and got stolen, and inadvertently, because I was even guilty of it too, you download a document, you never go back into your C drive download file, and you have sensitive information on your C drive. And I didn't know that. So, just by virtue of becoming more aware of things, it became really scary. And that prompted me to go through all the bar regulations to see, you know, what was necessary. And we interviewed a whole host of IT companies, but CCSI came to us with the best solution for us, which David will explain more about, because we were very concerned about security.
And security is the staple now of everybody's concern, right? It's the core of everybody's concern, because as a business, you're accountable. You're accountable for the information you collect, whether it's personally identifying information, PII it's called, or sensitive legal information. You are responsible for it. So when it gets out there on the dark web, and the source could only be one place, that's when you worry about security. And that's hopefully would be proactive. Productivity, we've already touched on. Productivity is the ability for people to be most productive no matter where they are, where, you know, do their applications work? Does the technology function the way it's supposed to? How old are the desktops sitting or laptops sitting in your business? Are they crawling along with Windows 7, or you know, are they how often do we have to replace them? All of that comes under the heading of productivity. And while I could go on and talk about these elements all day long, what you'll notice here at the bottom of the slide, and what you'll notice for the rest of the presentation is some QR codes for you to be able to get in touch with us or schedule an appointment with us. And if I could go and take these these items into further detail, I love to talk about it. I love to teach about it. People will start to fall asleep during the lunch and learn if I become too jargon oriented, but I can certainly help you if you're interested in this, or talk to you about it with your business. Accessibility is the ability to get to it, whether it's from a laptop or a desktop, in the office, on the road, wherever there's internet. Accessibility.
Yeah. So, you know, I belong to a Facebook group, Lawyers from the Beach, or Lawyers on the Beach. And that's what I strive to be, a lawyer on the beach. And with, you know, I can grab my laptop. I was in Marco this past weekend, and I stayed through Tuesday. And how could I do that? Well, I was lawyering from the beach. You know, the technology lets me do that now. And I'll show you that although you think I'm in an office, I am really working from home.
Oh, look at that.
See? So.
Oh, your home could be a backdrop, a nice office backdrop.
Well, it is my home office.
So when Andrea called us in, and you know, Brodsky Jacobs with most things realized that don't be overwhelmed by this graphic. I put it here on purpose to overwhelm you. There is just so much to consider, right? There is so much to consider when you're doing it. And while technology in many offices, especially small businesses, and we understand when you're growing organically and you're just starting in business, you know, you run out to Costco, you get a laptop, or you run out to Costco and you buy a bunch of PCs and you put them together, or more than likely you've had your cousin's brother's friend's neighbor's sister's friend who was an expert in technology come in, set up your office for you, and you thought you were good to go. There is just way too much to consider. I would never do my own taxes. I would never handle my own legal work. I would never try and engage someone to understand the difference here between public cloud and private cloud. And if you do understand the difference, again, feel free to schedule an appointment, because we could talk about this stuff all day long. But you have, you know, there's just so much to think about when putting these things together, that in order to have a good solution, you really need to hire an expert. And that's the reason I put this slide up, is because I want to encourage you. It's really going to be pay me now or pay me later. It really is. It's always is. That you don't get more than what you pay for. That's just the way we live in America. You might not always get what you pay for, but you definitely don't get more than what you pay for. So please consult with somebody. It doesn't have to be CCSI or me, although I would prefer if it is. It can be anybody. Talk to multiple companies, get some help. Don't do it by yourself.
Exactly.
When we keep harping on security because, like anything else, business resilience, you can't be resilient without security, right? So how can we be proactive? You see here in the graphic, businesses, municipalities, major corporations. I remember when Target was hacked for their credit card. It happens across the board. It does. How can we be proactive so that it doesn't happen to us, or we minimize the chances? And if that case doesn't work, minimize the outcomes, the dangerous outcomes. How can we do that? Well, I mean, I'm sure most of you, for some applications, have already started using multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, and that's a fancy word. That's a fancy word for describing something you have and something you know. Okay. When you have an email account, you have you know your email address and your password, but you have your cell phone or your token to be able to enable you to get into your account, whether it's your bank account or an online, any of these. So being proactive, I know it sounds like it's an extra step, and a lot of people love password 123 and being able to just click on their computer and going right in. But if we take a few small extra steps that are really innocuous and really not a pain, you can magnify your security profile by a factor of 10. You really can. I'm going to relay one quick story, and so I'm sure most of you have heard something like this. We a lawyer friend of mine, not Andrea, had email that was not protected, and somebody sent along a document to her email, and she clicked on the attachment and it opened up a Microsoft Office 365 splash page, right? Oh, I got to open my Office 365 to log in and see this document. So she puts in her email address, she puts in her password right here into this special splash screen that was created by the hacker, who now has her email address and password for her email. Well, if she had had multi-factor authentication, even if they had that information, without having the token or they wouldn't have been able to now monitor her email. In the old days, they would just attack your contacts. Now, this perpetrator was actually monitoring her email, waiting for a closing so that they could interject by just changing on an email address, a lowercase g for a lowercase q. They were able to slip in faulty wiring instructions, and $80,000 was transferred out of her trust account, wired and irretrievable. Bank couldn't retrieve it. Nobody could retrieve it. Florida Bar Association doesn't care where, I mean, it's your trust account. It's your responsibility. You are accountable.
Yeah.
So multi-factor authentication could have saved her. But even if you don't have that, and this is outside the guise of technology, have some protocols in place to protect against online fraud, to protect against verify the routing instructions or the wiring instructions with the bank. Talk to a human being if you're talking about transferring large sums of money or giving away information that would enable someone to have access to large sums of money or any sensitive information. Verify, measure twice, cut once. I don't know if anybody ever heard that phrase before, but that's just one example of how to be proactive.
We had a situation, and it actually happened to me a few years back. One of my attorney friends was hacked, and we were in the middle of doing some type of business together where we were moving a document back and forth, and I was away on vacation, and she sent the document, and it looked, everything looked like anything I would ever get from her. And I clicked on the document and everything was exposed once I clicked on the document. Oh. And you just, now we're continuing to get those phishing type emails. Somebody impersonates a lawyer that we know, and we get documents that are sent to us. Even today, I saw in our Slack, one of our lawyers got a document from a law firm that I knew, but that she had never done any business with. And I got the email yesterday, but I knew I wasn't doing anything with them, and I deleted the email. You know, and we tell them, look, if you think it could be a document that someone's sending you, call and verify, but do not click before you call and verify.
But here's the thing, right? And I think this is an important concept for IT and for your staff and for all of your staffs to really and this really encompasses the theme of having an IT partner in general, but specifically as it relates to security and backup and disaster, which we'll talk about in a second. You as the business owner want to know that you're protected. You want to know that you're taking the steps, but you don't want to have to, and you obviously, there is no replacement for common sense. But even if common sense were to be lax, or even if you were to slip up, you want to know that what you have in place is going to protect you as much as possible. Nothing is foolproof, we know that, but more importantly, you want to know that your environment is surrounded with the best protection possible. And I think that's really only possible when you do it in a environment that is tightly controlled. When I say tightly controlled, we're going to talk about it on the next slide, but or the following one, but we're going to talk about the solution, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But when I say tightly controlled, I mean you don't want your people, your staff, to be able to operate outside the lines of what and boundaries of what you set for them. So other important things to consider, especially when it comes to resilience, are backup and disaster recovery. Everyone has, you know, some people have carbonite, some people have this, some people think they're backing up, they copy everything to an external drive, they think that they haven't checked. The most important things for business and enterprise backup and disaster recovery are two things. A, how soon we'll be back at work, and B, how much have we lost, right? Those are the two most important things. They're referred to by acronyms of return point objective and recovery time objective. But the most important, sorry for the jargon, the most important pieces to know are how fast will we be back at work? Will my employees be out of work for days while we recover from this virus, or months? And how much data will we lose? How far back do we have to roll the clock? And I think the most important thing to think about as a business is our goal as IT providers is to minimize that to less than a day on both counts. Certainly less than a day. Usually we can do even better than that, but our goal is to never have anybody down for more than a couple of hours. But if we have a real breach or a real problem to mitigate, and then our goal to have not just a goal, our system, our backup system in place allows us to go back at least twice a day to roll back the clock to before someone clicked on that link, to before someone made that mistake, to before someone even changed that file and copied over it. And you say, hey, I need to recover this file because somebody copied over my template. We're able to do it. And that's, I think, what's most important to remain resilient is to know in disaster, what's my risk? A lot of businesses are required to maintain compliance measures in order to operate, whether you're a healthcare professional and you have to maintain HIPAA requirements, or you're taking credit cards or personally identifiable information and you have to maintain PCI compliant. Or if you're an enterprise and you're subject to Sarbanes-Oxley, maybe you have to have a SOC 1 or a SOC 2 type compliance. Those kinds of things, again, you can't have it on your home built network, but when you have a self-contained environment, those kinds of things are what we are experts at providing and what we can certainly help your business with. But you need someone to be able to take those checklists and check them off. Another thing that you should consider that we didn't talk about is, and I know a lot of, and this is not technology, is a insurance policy. If you don't have one, that protects you against business loss. If my lawyer friend had an insurance policy, she may have been able to get her $80,000 back because that may have been considered a business loss. You have to obviously talk to an insurance agent. I'm sure the chamber can put you in touch with a number of insurance agents who can offer these types of policies. A lot of times those insurance agents will want to work with your IT company to get the sign off on what you are and what you're not doing as it relates to these compliance measures or backup and disaster recovery and security of your environment. So
That's really important, David. Like, I know that was one of my biggest issues when we were looking for a new IT partner. And even a couple of weeks ago, I run one of the chamber referral groups, and getting to know everybody because we're a fairly new group, a reformed group. And I had a one-on-one with our insurance person, and we had an in-depth discussion about cybersecurity insurance. And she even did a risk assessment for me and sent me a quote. And it's very reasonable compared to what you would pay for your premium compared to the $80,000 that your client had to pay out that would have been covered. And they cover, you know, like a typical policy covers up to $1 million.
yeah, so highly recommended, as any insurance agent will tell you, diversify your risk, go buy insurance. Oh, I forgot to put the apostrophe. I'm
Ah,
sorry.
come on now.
So what's the Brodsky Jacobs pretend there's apostrophe after the S solution?
Mrs. Gershberg would not be happy with you right now.
No, I'm sorry. We talked about the plural possessive. I know. So stay with me for a second, because I want you to forget about what you see here on the left. I want you to just focus what you see here on the right. This looks like a typical office environment that you might find in any office: computers, telephones, sitting in the office, and those computers and that office is connected to the internet, that cloud thing, right? But what you'll notice is what I want to show is how do we take this environment, and maybe we do have people in a hybrid environment still working in the office, right? And how do we move this environment outside the office, right? How can Andrea work at her home office with a desk phone on her desk and a terminal in place? And what you'll notice across all of these images is I have this Windows desktop showing here. The reason I have that is to show that it doesn't matter where you are. And the reason it doesn't matter where you are is that normally in your old environment, your computer or your PC underneath your desk would have the Windows on it, and it would have all your applications on it. And every couple of years, the IT might come up and replace it, or it might get slow or gummed up or whatever it might be. But those were individual PCs, connected to a server. And what you see here now is that instead of putting individual PCs and servers in your closet, we have in our data center replicated in 4 different places around the country. Again, security and resilience is ultimate and paramount. We have servers set up that actually have your desktops on them. I know it sounds nebulous again, but basically we take these servers and we carve them up into little tiny pieces that give you more power than the PC that you have under your desk. And we run your desktops on these servers, and you basically log into them. You log into them as if you're sitting at your desk and just learning on your PC. And what happens is it enables us to work. It doesn't matter if we're using QuickBooks. It doesn't matter if we're sharing files with each other, as if we were sitting in the cubicles next to each other. Andrea or whomever might be sitting at their home office, or even with a laptop at the coffee shop or hotel, or with her iPad on the beach, with her cell phone, no matter where she is with the technology as if she's sitting in her office. But this central piece, I've got the Microsoft provides this, and VMware provides some of the hardware around it, but we also have a phone system. The phone system we took out of their office. Oops, what did I hit there? The phone system we took out of their office and put it on a server in the cloud. And now all of these phones, using what you may have heard of as voice over IP, are able to not just take phone calls as if they're on the system, or and receive phone calls or transfer calls as if they're sitting in the office next to each other. But I'm going to let Andrea tell you about one of her favorite features, which is this little soft phone that she has on her cell phone that gives her the ability to have her extension on her cell phone. Go ahead, Andrea.
Because as a lawyer, unless you practice personal injury law, which I know one of my friends is sitting in the webinar right now, you might want to be able to have work-life balance and separate out your personal life and your professional life. And that was a big thing with us, that we didn't want our clients to have, especially in family law, you never want your clients to have your cell phone number because everything's an emergency 24/7. And with the 3CX technology, we have our phone system and an app on our cell phone that we can call our clients directly from the cell phone, and it will show the office phone number. And likewise, the phone can ring here. I have one of the phones sitting on my home office desk where I like to pick up the hard phone if a client calls and I'm sitting here. Or if I run out to run an errand, my cell phone will ring and I can speak to the client. So it's the perfect situation for me. Also, we have textability through a different app that runs through our website, comes onto an app on our cell phone. Clients can text the 954-344-7737 phone number, and we can respond to the text. They'll get an auto text response if it's after hours, but if it's an emergency, we will all see it and one of us can respond to it. So the technology that's come through, and maybe it was all there before, David, but it's really helped us in our business, especially now that we're a true hybrid law firm. We have 2 admins sitting in the 4,200 square feet of office space, which the lease is ending in the next 2 months. And then we will have 1 or 2 admins in an office somewhere just so we maintain an office space. But literally 99% of our law firm is run remotely right now.
That's
And
amazing.
the work-life balance is incredible. Like you said with the hours before, I'm an early morning riser, and I used to not like to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to work out before I had to do the chamber breakfast. But now I could wake up at 6, jump on my computer by 7, work till 11, take a 2-hour break workout, quick shower, back in for the afternoon. And I feel like I have a better control of my life, and I love it. And my husband used to travel for his job. He's starting that up again. And I know I can just grab the laptop, have my cell phone, and I can go with them. So it's wonderful.
Yeah. And, I don't want to, one of the things we talked about last night when preparing for today's presentation, there are some cultural issues at work that you do have to deal with, right? There are some people who are more productive or there's great ideas around the water cooler. It is important, I think, every business is different. I think it's important to have team meetings and to have that collaboration. And some people, but even though we have the software that Andrea can put on her, that we could put on her system so that she can actually monitor what her staff is doing, if that's something that interests you. But I don't think that kind of policing is what Andrea wants for her law firm. Culture, for a different type of culture, it might be totally appropriate. But like she said, now that she has given her staff the flexibility to be anywhere, in the office, at home, maybe they'll be renting a suite from the office complex at the Samplin University, one of the chamber members, anywhere. She has the flexibility that she didn't have before. So cultural issues aside, and like I said, everything isn't always exactly 100% the way we want it, but you want to try and create the environment that gives you the best solution at the appropriate, predictable price that's scalable. So like when Andrea adds a staff member, she doesn't have to go out and buy an extra computer for them. She has to add them to her subscription. But then if that person were to leave or she were to downsize, she doesn't have to put that computer on ice. We just reduce her by one user. So the cloud also provides you scalability, and that most things are subscription based, and that you add users as needed, you remove users as needed. It gives you a predictable monthly budget for IT. It's not going to be the least expensive thing in the world, certainly, but nothing good ever is. It's very competitive, and it's also predictable. So, I'm going to open it up to questions, but and any other comments Andrea wants to make. But in terms of the 3 prongs that we discussed earlier, security, accessibility, productivity, the solution really, and let me take another step back. A lot of businesses, and this solution can be good, and we have businesses that are anywhere from, I would say, the smallest business that would really benefit cost-wise from this would be 3 to 4 people. Smaller than that, it gets to be a little bit cost inefficient. But there are cloud technologies that can be used outside of what we've shown you here today. But I think it's important that you consider all 3 of these things when looking at whatever technologies you need to look at. And certainly there are solutions that run outside of full desktop virtualization like we just showed you. But it really, and if you ever want to talk to, about the benefits of virtualization with people that aren't going to speak in jargon, just talk to Cindy or talk to Char or talk to Andrea. They could tell you that without necessarily being able to wrap their heads around it from the beginning, now they understand. Now they get it. Now they understand the value proposition to being in the cloud in some way, shape, or form, to providing their business the resilience that it needs. So with that, I don't have anything additional to add. Andrea, I don't know about you.
I don't. Maybe there's a couple of questions. Here comes one. How do each of you think remote working will evolve over the next 5 years?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I can only see it. I see it continuing to grow. However, I do see like the Elon Musks of the world that are trying to get everybody back into the office. But I think the Great Resignation has changed that, and that it will continue to evolve, because I think more and more workers have a better bargaining chip, and they want better work-life balance. And I think this affords it to most types of businesses.
I think what you'll see, as you currently see job markets and labor markets continuing to tighten and shift, and geographical locations and what's affordable shift, people are going to be enticed to move. And if they're given the flexibility of maintaining quality employment, and businesses are able to maintain quality employees by giving them the flexibility to not have to be there in person, why would you give that up? If you don't have to give that up, what does it matter where they are? Now, again, like you said, Elon Musk and some people and businesses, the hybrid office makes sense for them, because they have people that won't function well in a remote environment, or can't do their job in a remote environment. But I think, in answer to the question, is over the next 5 years, you're going to see it, like Andrea said, and like we said earlier, some of these tools already existed. They're going to continue to improve. The necessity of the pandemic was the mother of this invention in terms of making the hybrid office a real thing, right? The pandemic forced the curve a little faster. I think you're going to see, as people continue to realize that they can work anywhere, their needs are going to continue to improve, and businesses are going to conform to the needs of the tightest supply right now, which is employees. So that's my answer to that. Is there anything else? on the list?
Nope. Thank you for having us. This
Yeah,
was
thank you
fun.
so
We
much.
hope you got a lot out of it. We thank the chamber, and if you have any questions for me, use the QR and reach out. I can
And-
answer you on my cell phone.
Me, I'm this QR code is something that I'm trying, that a lot of other people I've seen using it. It pulls up a calendar appointment scheduling so that you can actually schedule an appointment with me in my available times through the calendar. I'm just trying it now. I've seen a lot of people using it, and we'll find out how it works. Hopefully somebody will schedule an appointment just to test it out. Anyhow.
So I want to thank both of our speakers. Thank you so much for being here. And as somebody who went through a traumatic disaster, and during the pandemic, which was basically losing everything, all of my information for 1 year, and then having a laptop at home during the pandemic that died. I know what it feels like to lose months and months of work. And after that, I called David and I was like, remember that cloud stuff you talked to me about? Because I was like, so just disinterested, honestly, when I hear computer stuff. But now that I know what I know, I could never go back. And the only thing I could say to all of you is make sure you have the backup system in place, and the security system that you need. And, we have other people in the chamber that do this as, computers, but, obviously we went with David. He gave us, and he was literally came to my house during the pandemic to help me. So, and Andrea, I look at you and I say, wow, she took a whole office and made it hybrid. So that's quite an accomplishment. You were one of the most organized people during the pandemic. So that's why we wanted to have both of you speak. I appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing everybody. We're doing our next class on August 25th, and it'll be lunchtime. So just have lunch with us. But our speaker is Rafael Cruz, and he's from FAU Small Business Development Center. And he actually is a consultant to the chamber. We have our own business consultant. And the reason is we did that was because if I was going to recommend them, I wanted to see what it was like. And they have been so helpful. So I hope you join us in that class. I believe it's called Weathering Any Disaster, or I don't have my script in front of me, but oh, okay. So what is it called? Building a strong foundation to weather any storm. And if you have time, we'd love to join us for lunch and come hear what he has to say. Thank you very much to the speakers. And thank you to the City of Coral Springs Economic Development Office for supporting this event. And we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.